as we go. All right, so yeah, today I just wanted to give an overview of the project. I'll start with a bit of background, describing what realtime-mindeye is, how we got here, and where the current status is, and then I'll go into where people can contribute. So I guess, Paul, you may have seen like a similar version of this presentation before, but I wanted to start with this 2006 paper from Ken Norman, who's the PI of the lab that I work at here at Princeton, basically talking about going beyond mind reading, specifically with fMRI data. And this was a while ago now, but it kind of looks forward at the technologies at the time. And one of the things that it talks about is determining how mental representations map onto patterns of neural activity, and using that to decode information from fMRI. So this is sort of a thing that's kind of been in the making for a long time. And as Paul just mentioned, he worked on during his postdoc, and I'm continuing now at the lab. So yeah, just to kind of give people some motivation for the potential applications of this. Number one, there's many different clinical and scientific applications. I think to have a technology that can be able to reconstruct vision and eventually go towards reconstructing mental imagery and reconstructing memories can have a lot of clinical applications, for example, as a brain-computer interface for locked-in patients. And you can also use this for neurofeedback techniques to treat psychiatric disorders. And then on the scientific side, the way that we think about this kind of technology is it's really giving us a window into someone's cognitive representations. And this can help us understand how people learn and remember. And I just wanted to note that it's important that the objective is not necessarily to reconstruct the scene stimulus as is, but rather to understand what the cognitive transformations and representations are when someone does something as simple as looking at an object. So yeah, this is like an excerpt from the Norman et al. Paper, where they basically talk about using these pattern classification methods to recognize cognitive states from fMRI in real time. And because if we're able to do that, use them to provide feedback to help subjects either learn to control their thoughts. So these are some of these brain-computer interface type applications, or even external devices. And then again, on the scientific side, study how representations change as you learn. So yeah, this is sort of the motivation for why specifically a real-time decoder would be important. And so I just kind of wanted to take you guys through how we got here and where we're going next. So I'll first start by talking about the existing results using 7 Tesla MRI that Paul led with MindEye, and then talk about what we've extended that to 3 Tesla MRI, and then where we're at right now. So yeah, I guess this is sort of like a one picture like summary of where we started and where we're at right now. So I'm sure many of you have seen this. This is the MindEye 2 figure. This is the scene image when someone looks at an image in the MRI scanner. And with increasing amounts of training data, these are the reconstructions that you get. In MindEye 1, you're able to get like very good reconstruction quality using the entire data set up to 40 hours. And then in MindEye 2, the main contribution was that you could get very high quality reconstructions with just 1 hour of training data from a new participant using shared multi-subject modeling. So this is kind of where I guess Paul sort of left off, and where we're extending this towards real-time applications is to eliminate a lot of the additional pre-processing and expensive processing that happens, and to be able to have someone in the scanner look at an image like this, what we call the ground truth image, and within a handful of seconds generate a reconstruction like this. And I just like showing this because it's like an example of something that has worked successfully at like very initial stages, and we've gotten some signs of life. So yeah, this is something that we're pretty proud of, that we just accomplished recently, like maybe a month ago, and we're hoping to extend. So yeah, any questions, or I don't know, Paul, if you have anything to add so far?
Just to add, this bottom picture here is very recent and was a pretty incredible feat where Rishabh himself was getting scanned. Like, you know, he got all the code working, and then he goes and puts himself in the scanner, and we scan him, looking at the images that he's the first person to be able to say like, hey, I got my scene images, you know, real-time reconstruction of my vision from a MRI machine.
That's fun. First person to have your mind read real time.
Yeah, pretty cool stuff. And I think my highlight was debugging code from inside the scanner. So
we screen shared his own code and had to ask him to help us with something.
Wait, so I hope you did not bring your laptop in the MRI machine, right? I hope that didn't happen.
No, we had to switch the monitor screen to the like presentation computer and screen share his Python code to him while he's still in there, because we don't want to take him out, because then you have to re-register the brain and everything.
It's a whole new closed loop. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, exactly. It's closed loop neurofeedback, like BCI.
They should have had the scanner running while you were doing that, and then we could figure out the brain basis for code debugging.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. It's like if you're looking at the image, but in your case, Rishabh, you're not just looking at the image, you're also thinking about if your code is gonna work or not. Yeah. So your higher level parts of your brain are still active.
Yeah, I think I was probably more nervous about code working than focusing on the images, but I tried my best to
that's what
to look at the fixation cross and not worry too much about whether it worked or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is pretty exciting. I think so. I basically just wanted to I'll give you guys like a background. I mean, I have some slides in here talking about like natural scenes data set and stuff, but I think judging by the audience, I'm not sure if this is super useful. So I'll try to like kind of go a little bit faster, because I'm assuming most people are familiar with natural scenes data set and fMRI and things like that. But yeah. Okay, I have my I joined on my phone so I can see some faces while I'm talking. Okay, so natural scenes dataset, for anyone that's not familiar, was collected using 7 Tesla MRI, which is I think the highest available resolution that's compatible with human imaging or approved for humans. I don't know if there's like 11 Tesla now, but yeah. Anyway, it's a high-resolution scanner. They collected a lot of good data after a lot of careful curation from 8 participants, 30 to 40 sessions each over the course of a year. Each image or each participant saw tens of thousands of images, and in total there was like 70,000 unique images and 200,000 total trials across all the participants. So it's a lot of data, and it's a data set that people have used in a lot of like both decoding and encoding kind of analyses. So yeah, and the types of images are, as you can see, like objects and people and animals. So just natural scenes and objects. So yeah, just wanted to introduce GLM single. This was another core prior work that contributed to the results of MindEye, and that we're hoping to adapt into something that's real-time compatible. So this is basically a method for extracting single trial responses, so a brain response to a single scene image. And the core question here is which voxels have reliable and consistent responses to the same image. So it has a bunch of like optimizations that it does. For example, I'll show this one, but there's a few other steps that it involves. For example, it chooses from a library of HRFs that are parametrically varying and fits a unique optimal HRF for each voxel, something that looks like this. So you have each voxel in the brain has its own response function for this image task. And then this is like a result of where in the brain you have predictable responses. So the R squared, or how much variance, is explained by the GLM model across the brain. So you can see on the left hand side is the back of the brain, or the visual cortex. So you can see that because of the GLM model, we have a lot of variance explained in visual cortex. So yeah, so again, this is the basically what led to MindEye 2. The main result was that using limited amounts of training data, you're able to generalize to held out subject using a shared subject model. Okay, so now here's where we start getting into the things that we've done so far to extend this work. So number one, these are numbers that I found I think should be pretty accurate as of a few years ago. But there's very few 7 Tesla scanners in the world. There's a lot more 3 Tesla scanners, which is lower resolution, but a lot more widely accessible. And so in making this kind of brain-computer interface accessible, we would ideally want it to be compatible with 3 Tesla, which is what most standard facilities have. And then in addition to that, as we talked about before, there's a lot of expensive pre-processing and things that go into getting these really great results of MindEye. But ideally, in order to make it usable for BCI applications, we want it to be real-time compatible. So yeah, I guess this is skipping a lot of work, but this is results in successfully generalizing MindEye 2 to 3 Tesla data. So this is basically pre-training on NSD 70 and then fine-tuning on, I forget exactly how many, but maybe like 1 to 3 hours of data from a new participant collected using 3 Tesla data at a different institution at Princeton instead of Minnesota, using a different, potentially slightly different scanning parameters, a new experiment, etc. So there we show very good generalization to 3 Tesla. As you can see, with just a couple hours of training data, you have pretty good reconstructions, something that we that might really enable good generalization. And so this was, again, one of our like green lights that this is possible to extend to 3 Tesla. Just like note that this is we're still in like the offline setting. So this is all with extensive pre-processing and the use of GLM single, etc. Yeah, so basically this kind of leaves us here where well, I guess if I said one scanning session, this is with one session of data, we can get really good decoding performance in a completely new data collection setting. So this is, again, like our green light that I think we can sort of start addressing these problems that the review talks about in terms of doing BCI applications and real time. Okay, so before I get into it, just wanted to briefly mention the stuff that we've shown before are mainly referring to reconstruction. So this is generating an image based on the brain activity. We also have another task, retrieval, which is basically like a multiple choice. Pick the image that the person saw based on their brain activity out of a pool of how many other images. And so this is an example of a correct and an incorrect response from the model, where on the top it gets the multiple choice correct. The top one retrieval is the actual original scene image, and then in the second one it gets it wrong. it was only the third guess that was the actual C1. Okay, so this is just another task. In general, when I talk about reconstruction, I kind of using it broadly to also encompass retrieval, since this is also something that we might be interested in doing. And then we sort of introduced this additional measure called two alternative force choice, where basically instead of doing sort of like a general pool retrieval like this, we retrieve the image based on just two, but specifically the images are chosen so that they're very perceptually and semantically similar. So for example, you have two buildings here that are quite similar. And so this is also something that we've added in on top of the NST paradigm in order to test these very fine-grained differences and see if we're able to, if our model is able to discriminate between brain activity in response to two very similar objects or images. Okay, everyone following so far? Any questions or anything to add? Okay, I'm gonna continue then. All right, so then I'm gonna talk about where we're at right now with real time. So basically the main challenges are, the main thing is just that there's a lot of heavy pre-processing that goes into it. There's fMRI prep and GLM single that can take like several days to run. So the main question is, how can we speed up the pre-processing while keeping most of the benefits of all these complicated pipelines? So in order to accomplish the real-time decoding setup that I talked about before, we need to pre-select which voxels are going to be reliable. Obviously, we don't have the actual data itself, but we need to do our best guess of predicting which voxels are going to be reliable in the real-time session. Because one of the most important things that we found is that in order to have good decoding, actually like reducing the dimensionality of the features is very important. And so rather than like taking the entire brain and passing it through the model, selecting which voxels are going to be reliable is something that is important. And then in addition to that, because we want to do real-time decoding, we don't have access to the data itself to fine-tune our model. So we're going to need to use previous sessions from the same participant in order to fine-tune our model to be able to generalize to the actual real-time session. So GLM single tells us which voxels are reliable. So the core assumption that we're using is that voxels that are reliable in one session should stay reliable across sessions. So what I'm going to show you is data from, this is me, 3 sessions. So you can see the same plots as before, where these are the variants explained in the brain by the model. And so you can see in sessions 1, 2, and 3, the maps are quite similar, although there are definitely differences. But basically, we're trying to take advantage of this similarity in responses because the approach to do real-time decoding is basically going to be aligning the data that we're collecting in real time to previous sessions data. And we're having identified which voxels are going to be reliable and then specifically analyzing those. So yeah, basically we predetermine which voxels are going to be reliable and use those. So here's kind of like a overview of the pipeline. So before the real-time session, we have a pre-trained MindEye 2 model from NSD. So this is basically, this has already been pre-trained. Then we collect a few hours of data from a new participant what I just showed you, and we use these data to number 1, select the voxels that respond reliably to visual stimuli. Number 2, fine-tune the model on this participant, and then fine-tune the model, and then we're ready to go into the real-time session. I saw a question. I have no idea where the chat went. Oh yeah, I guess I just answered that. So yeah, we're using the pre-trained model and then fine-tuning it on a few additional sessions of real-time data. Yeah. Okay. And then in real time, we're collecting DICOM images that we stream directly from the MRI scanner onto our analysis computer using this software called RT Cloud. We have to, again, before the sessions, we've sort of accounted for hemodynamic lag. So we know that there's going to be a lag between the fMRI response and the actual like image presentation. And so ahead of time, we've basically decided that at volume, say from image onset, like 7.5 seconds after the onset of the first image, we're going to like use that TR to perform a reconstruction. So we've selected that target volume, and then using that target volume, once we get it in, we motion correct it and register it to a reference volume from the previous sessions that's already been pre-processed. We fit the GLM to extract a beta estimate within this predefined reliable voxel mask, and then we input that into the fine-tuned model to generate a retrieval and a reconstruction. So yeah, that's basically our overall pipeline. It's a very simple like pre-processing. There's only motion correction and registration to the subject's T1 space, and we're just using a simple NiLearn off-the-shelf GLM right now. Yeah, and then just to give you an idea of what this looks like, this is a video that Paul took from inside the scanner. So as you can see over here, this is like the experiment display that's shown to the subject, which is me. And then this is where, this is my laptop where all the stuff is running. So after a bit of delay, you're gonna see there is one of the reconstructions, and you can see the retrieval was actually correct. It got the right building. Yeah, so that's where we're at right now. Here's some results. These are actually from one of the new collaborators on Discord. I'm not sure if they're on the call, but yeah, they did some good work in just making a nice display of all the results. But these are, I think, the last few images from this session that were reconstructed. So you can see the retrievals are and reconstructions are, you know, decent. We got a few of the retrievals right. The top one was like still a building, but a different building that was retrieved. So yeah, basically a lot of when I go into talking about the open tasks right now, we're sort of at a stage where we have a pipeline that works well and is clearly above chance, which is something that we've been working on for a long time to be able to achieve. And so we're pretty happy with where we're at right now. Kind of the next immediate steps are basically going to be around trying to get these reconstructions and retrievals looking better, and doing further optimizations and trying out various things with the architecture and with the pipeline. Yeah, any questions so far before I go into talking about the open tasks? Okay, I'll keep going then.
Maybe I can just highlight some things here. This is a great job of summarizing all this stuff, Rishabh. I kind of just want to highlight, like, this is you can kind of think of this as like a flagship kind of demonstration of what's possible with real-time fMRI. So usually when people are considering real-time fMRI, there have been a large number of works that have been doing real-time. Almost all of them are very basic. You know, they're usually univariate contrasts. So like there's a whole field of like neurofeedback studies where you're sort of just judging whether one area of the brain has like more activity overall. going up and down. And so there's like some work where you try to like have the subject learn to regulate their brain area and how it's processing, that sort of thing. It's very rare to have very like a fine-grained pipeline with like AI and using GPU and like a sort of complicated workflow. There have been some MVPA studies that are a bit more nuanced than just univariate contrast, but the setup involved for real time is quite challenging, and it's sort of like a field of kind of like novel research to figure out the best way to get real time to work in general. So this is not just like a specific problem of getting realtime-mindeye to work. It's a more general question of like what goes into getting a real-time, fine-grained decoding pipeline to work with fMRI. So another nuance here is the RT Cloud framework that Rishabh mentioned for how do you even get the raw brain scans onto the machine that will be processing them, was also developed in the Norman lab and is something that Rishabh is maintaining. And so there's another aspect of like, we're trying that this is like an open source framework for even getting real time to be easily set up in new facilities. And then there are going to be open tasks that Rishabh will talk about in a bit about like, how do you get the pre-processing to work? And this is useful, I think, to any lab that would want to be doing real-time fMRI, because it hasn't been really well investigated. How do you do GLMs on the fly to get like single trial betas that work well? And this is a complicated pipeline, obviously, doing MindEye. So I think it's a sort of good demonstration of the challenges that we're going to try to surmount and publish about and showcase like the best way to do it. And that'll be a good example educational resource for all sorts of real-time studies to come. And hopefully it can ultimately be used for novel improvements to how neurofeedback is done in general, like doing more complicated workflows that enable neurofeedback to work better. And also potentially be more useful in like clinical settings. MindEye being able to be performed on a new subject within one session, their first visit to the MRI machine, like that demonstrates a level of sophistication for a decoding pipeline that hasn't really been shown before. And potentially that can then generalize from this kind of academic work to more practically useful clinical applications.
Yep. Yeah, thanks for that, Paul. Yeah, so we're also sort of excited for this and as like I guess as a proof of concept that you can do this sort of complicated analysis in real time, and also in a way that's like very accessible. Like I said, using 3 Tesla scanning, which is something that many facilities have access to, and also obviously this is non-invasive imaging. Yeah. Okay. So then I'll just go into the open tasks. So I think the main thing that I've just been working on over the last month, and where I still need a lot of help, is a lot of housekeeping. So I've been doing a lot of work to write documentation, clean up the code, and this is stuff that I could still use help with if people are interested. And also these kind of things are actually nice for newer people who are looking to get involved, because you can basically help test the instructions work, and then by virtue of testing the instructions and helping move around code and things like that, you can also actually get stuff installed and running. So then the next thing is benchmarking how like basically our reconstruction latency, so time between the person viewing the image in the scanner to when the reconstruction happens, so that we have a baseline of our latency that we can both report and also try to improve in the future, as well as the actual reconstruction performance, meaning how close we are to the original stimulus. So yeah, there's like specific things, merging the evaluation notebooks, making them compatible with the real-time code. And then, yeah, basically we want to, there's I guess this is some like a theme that I'll touch on the next slide as well, but there's a large space of different pipelines and different parameters that we can play around with. So taking the existing pipelines and once we have a solid benchmarks on how the baseline performance and reconstruction time is, taking various ideas for how to make our pre-processing faster or more accurate or better, and carefully documenting those and evaluating those is something that is very important, and that is in the very near term. The next thing that we've sort of been experimenting with, if you've been following the Discord chat, is making some slight modifications to the architecture. So this is a lot of work done by Caesar, so thank you for that. This is the original MindEye 2 architecture. I won't spend too much time on it, but basically, if you see on the right in blue, there's a very large dimensional embedding space that we're learning to map to, which is I think 400,000 dimensions or something. And so one of our ideas is that because of these kind of reconstructions that you get, they're all kind of very blurry, abstract kind of images right now. So one idea is if we're able to reduce the dimensionality of the embedding that we're predicting, considering we have such relatively low quality data from real time and not enough time to do a lot of complicated cleanup, is potentially by reducing the dimensionality of the embedding space that we're predicting. So these are a couple example figures that Paul made. You can see the reconstruction embedding space is smaller, so it's using a 1024 dimensional clip embedding. So this is something that we're experimenting on, and Caesar has done some great tests already to test various combinations of linear layers and smaller diffusion model, etc. So yeah, this is one of the ongoing steps. And then on the other hand, looking at the pre-processing side of things, one thing that's still very up in the air for anyone that's willing to or wanting to contribute is fine-tuning the model on betas that come from a real-time pre-processing pipeline. In general, in any ML pipeline, you always want to have the pre-processing of your evaluation data and your training data be as similar as possible. So currently we're using all the extensive pre-processing for even for fine-tuning the model. And so if we're able to follow the same procedure as in the real time and then fine-tune our model in order to be able to generalize to the real-time session, that would be very great. And then I don't know if this is even viable, but maybe even pre-training with the same procedure. I don't know if you have any, if anyone has thoughts on this. Yeah. Okay. So then, yeah, some more things. I'm just kind of throwing out different.
Rashad,
yeah, go ahead.
I was curious about the last one. I was thinking about this. I really like in general the idea of it's all the MindEye work uses natural scenes data sets pre-processed in the extensive way, like you say. You could just treat natural scenes data set as if it was collected real time, do the totally real time style pre-processing, like exactly the way you do it now. I'm curious what the performance of that would be. How much drop off would there be for regular image reconstruction using full pre-processing versus using the real-time style pre-processing on MSD?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something very important to test and have as a baseline. So
yeah, cool. I think it's a good idea. I like it.
Yeah, and I mean, I imagine that it's probably going to be a lot worse. We're not hoping that it will be similar to the MindEye 2 results, but we're sort of in an interesting regime where we want to be able to use the low quality data that we're getting in real time as best as possible. So maybe yeah, like you said, pre-training with like on worse quality data, but a lot more of it would potentially be helpful. So, but yeah, that's definitely something to test.
And it's just nice from the purpose of like, or from the perspective of iterating and experimenting, to have kind of like a simulated real-time environment rather than have to actually wait for actual real-time data, which is hard to collect and slow to collect. You just simulate real-time with NSD. Could be good for playing around.
Yeah, so that's basically most of the work that I've been doing is like setting up a easy to reproduce like simulated pipeline, because like you said, I mean, ultimately, like you once you collect the data once, like, you can do whatever you want with it. So you can always like just rerun a different analysis using using the existing data, and then you already have it, so you don't have to like wait for it to and connect to the MRI machine and wait for it to stream. So yeah, there's yeah, it's definitely a lot easier to make improvements to the pipeline. So I've done some work. Actually, maybe I'll just, since I'm sharing my screen, just briefly show the code. So this is I'll go into the mindeye tab. So yeah, I just wrote like a overview, general pipeline. This is the stuff I just talked about, and some hopefully easy instructions to follow. There's a quick start. I have 3 guides here. So the first one is a quick start, where you basically just like you don't even have to have like an IDE. You just need a GPU, but this is just like doing the actual analysis that we did in real time, by using simulated data, without any dependency on RT Cloud. So this is just like straight up taking the data, pre-processing, and analyzing it in real time. So this is the first place for people interested to get started with. And I think this should be like pretty straightforward as long as you have a computer with a GPU. It uses like a UV environment, and I think this should be like pretty straightforward. You just hit run and you should be able to generate this stuff. So like any experimentation that we want to do with the pipeline, I think this is a great place to start, because you can just like change something with the pre-processing, or you know, do whatever, and then you can run it and evaluate it afterwards. So that's doc number 1. Number 2 is, I mean, this is more for people that like actually want to run this experiment. So this is still, I'm very much like working on this actively, but this is like guide on how to run like actual RT Cloud with mindeye, and then I have a guide for how to like run the actual experiment, creating the stimulus, and how to show the experiment in CyclePy on the scanner, and pre-processing and fine-tuning and blah blah blah. So yeah, I'm also working on you know, guides for people that actually want to reproduce this analysis and do other stuff with it. So yeah, this is a lot of what I've been working on recently. Yeah, let's see. And then yeah, this is just one of the things that, again, we've been talking about, taking some of those optimizations that GLM single does. So like I mentioned before, it does this like HRF, custom HRF fitting per voxel. And so just like that, in addition to that, there's this step of GLM denoise, and it also does some sort of like ridge regression, picking the best regularization parameter. So there's a few of those kind of hyperparameter selection that it does, that we could potentially determine ahead of time, in the same way that over here we are using data from the previous sessions to predict which voxels are going to be reliable, and we've shown that that's pretty successful in real time. In a similar manner, taking these additional like hyperparameters and trying to predict what they're going to be in the real-time session is something, a future direction to test. Another, I mean, here I'm just like throwing out a bunch of ideas that we have. So if people are interested or want to chime in, feel free. But for example, you could imagine a setting where in the real-time session, you collect 1 run of data, and then what's the most you can do with like 5 minutes of data? Can you like update your estimates of which voxels are the most reliable, because there's going to be a lot of differences across sessions. But if you can if you can give yourself a little bit of time in between collecting your first run and doing your real-time stuff, to be able to identify your reliable voxels, to do a search over hyperparameters, or maybe even get in some fine-tuning of your model, then this could be maybe boost our performance. Yeah, so that's a summary of all the open tasks. I'll briefly just say what are near-term goals. So first, similar to Connor, I'm not working on I'm not submitting a paper for this workshop, but I've submitted an application to do a live demo at the workshop at NeurIPS that Paul is co-organizing, Foundation Models for the Brain and Body. So I've already submitted an application, and we'll find out, I think, next month if it gets accepted. But in that case, it'll basically be like a live demo to whoever's there to kind of show off this technology and get maybe open it up to collaborators and things like that. At the moment, we're sort of like in a stage where we want to get the reconstructions looking a little bit better than where they're at right now. I think overall the retrievals are fairly decent. So yeah, thanks, Connor. So yeah, but at the moment we're sort of trying to get the reconstructions to look better. As soon as we get that, I think we're probably pretty happy with trying to get a preprint and submitting it to a conference. So as like Connor mentioned during the previous meeting, iClear's deadline is coming up very soon, in like I think 2 or 3 weeks. So I mean, you know, if we're able to make a breakthrough in the next week, we can consider this. But if not, there's also ICML, which has a deadline I think in January. So that might be something to aim for as well. And then in the little bit more distant future, after we get sort of this initial paper out just describing the method and things like that, we'd want to do some more careful experimentation, for example, scanning multiple participants, because right now we're just using the data from just a few sessions from me, but we would also maybe want to replicate this method using a few other participants and do some other various experiments to show to like a more neuroscience audience that might be interested. So imaging neuroscience might be a good venue for this kind of paper. So yeah, this is basically like the publication goals that I have. I think like all of the stuff that I've talked about in terms of like open tasks are definitely a lot of things to test, and a lot more things that I probably haven't mentioned. So if people have ideas for how you think this pipeline could be improved, we're totally open. I think like what we have right now is a very minimal, like the most basic thing possible, and so any like experimentation I think is fair game. So yeah.
And also like I think this is a great project potentially to benefit from sort of crowdsourced multiple people working on it, because you already have the data, you already have a pipeline that time to try out different things, and you have like 40 different knobs to tweak of like different ideas for pre-processing and how to use GLMs, and you know, different ideas for, you know, what will get us the best performance of your data. So I think that it's difficult to do so many different like ablation kind of things for one person, but it is very tractable to do in parallel with a lot of people. So it's potentially a really good starting point for getting new people to help us out with this.
Yep, definitely. And a lot of the things are like very easy to test. I mean, you like, for example, you can just change like the smoothing kernel and add like a 5mm smoothing kernel in the Nylearn GLM and then evaluate that, and that's something to test, right? So yeah, definitely tons of different things to to try out. And yeah, I would very much appreciate anyone with any ideas and want to try out things. Yeah, so just to wrap up, kind of going back to this, the original vision, I think we're hoping to get this like a full like working real-time decoding pipeline work together in the next few months. Like Paul said it before, it's a proof of concept that a very complicated pipeline can work in real time. And so if we get this kind of thing to work, not only is it going to be useful for downstream clinical and scientific applications. For example, in the Norman lab, we have plans to use this kind of thing to look at how representations change as you learn, and maybe even do neurofeedback to try to modify that or relate that to, for example, hippocampal patterns and stuff like that. So not only can it be useful for those kinds of applications, but it can also be used for various clinical downstream things. So we're excited that we've sort of gotten something kind of to step one where we have a working pipeline. And so basically like extending this and getting something that can work pretty well, and being able to demonstrate to the general public that this is something that is out there and is very useful, I think is something that's very exciting for the near future. Yeah, so I think that's it for me. I guess we can, if people have any questions, now's the time. But otherwise, thanks to everyone for coming and participating. Looking forward to collaborating with everyone.
All right, thanks everyone. Really appreciate everyone showing up and hearing about Rishabh's work. Thanks, Rishabh, for giving a great presentation and summary of everything. And we'll, the conversation will continue in the Discord channel. And yeah, thanks everyone.